Good morning and welcome to the Point. It is Monday, November 16th, 2020. Thank you to those of you joining us on the GBN Grenada Broadcasting Network's Facebook page, the Grenada Broadcasting Network's YouTube channel, the website www.gbn.gd, GBN TV channel 7, 11 and 20, and good morning to the listeners of Classic 105.5, 105.9. This morning we're talking education from the angle of the Grenada Union of Teachers. I have joining us as our virtual guest this morning is President General of the GUT, Mr. Marvin Andall. Good morning, Mr. Andall.
Good morning to you, Blossom, and pleasant good morning to your viewers and listeners.
Thank you so much for joining us. I know you're in school at the moment, but we thank you for sparing us some time to get the GUT's perspective on a number of matters. So thank you again.
You're most welcome.
All right, so first things first, one of the most recent battles the GUT has spoken out about has to do with the removal of physical distancing in classrooms. And we have had feedback from members of the public on both sides of the fence. Some people are wondering why we're removing it. Others are saying, yes, we should because we're relatively safe with COVID-19. But from the GUT's point of it, it should remain. Why do you feel that way?
We are of the view that we have to be careful at this point because the authorities must be commended for the steps they took in earlier periods to keep us safe. But some of those measures included the adhering to physical distancing in schools and classrooms. And at the point when it was done in September, we had 0 cases. Now that we have cases on the island, we are saying to remove it at a time when it does not appear safe to do. The world is experiencing a second wave, and we do not, at this point, because our borders are open, the likelihood of persons coming in and contracting the virus, and we've seen how easy it is for people to get around and interact with our people. The issue of community spread can be just one case away. So at this particular time, we consider it quite unsafe to take a measure as to remove physical distancing in classrooms. Because school is not only about what we teach in terms of content area, we also teach the behaviors. The children should be learning how to behave and operate in this particular time, because it appears that the disease will be with us for some time. So if we are teaching children indirectly that physical distancing is not important because they could rub up with each other in the classroom, then how do we expect them to behave when they go out in the community? So we have to teach what we really want, because if it is that we are asking persons to wear masks, maintain physical distance in all other areas, and we are teaching children by our conduct to not have no regard for it in the classroom, then what message are we sending? The science now is also suggesting that the rate of spread among secondary schools, recently released scientific study showing that there is an increase in the transmission, particularly of children of secondary schools. And we have thousands of children in Grenada at secondary.
Since school reopened in September, generally, how have the children adapted to the protocols to curb against COVID-19, even when there was physical distancing, the wearing of the mask and so on, that the things they need to observe in the classroom? For somebody who's in a school, how has that aspect of the protocol been for them?
It has been a challenge. It has been a challenge because it is something that they were learning. But at the point now that they're beginning to adjust to it, we're saying that we're removing it. So then the issue of how to conduct themselves in the classroom amidst the pandemic could not be fully taught, because it would take time for children to get acclimatized to the new normal.
Some would say this is necessary for school to return to as close to normal as possible in terms of having classes on site, the things that they need to learn, they need to catch up from last year, and still have this year's work to do, and the removal of physical distancing will allow for more children to come to school and for that aspect of the learning process to take place. Do you see the rationale in that? Or it could still happen?
The rationale in that is easy to see. That's one aspect of it. We know that children learn best in the presence of the teachers, and we cannot dispute that. However, if it is, God forbid, that we have an outbreak, a community spread, it gets into a school, the school will close down maybe for weeks or months. So while we might be trying to save time by removing physical distancing, that practice by itself can cause us to even lose more time than if we were to maintain physical distancing. That's a logical way to also address.
All right, fair enough. Let's move on to another battle of the GUT, the issue of pension for teachers. This is not something that arose earlier this year like COVID-19. This is a battle of years, that it has stretched into years. What's the latest with getting ensuring that your teachers can retire with their pension intact?
The issue of teachers' pension is very much on the front runner for the GUT and for all other persons representing individuals in the public service. It is rather unfortunate that the matter could not be settled outside of a court. The matter is before the court, and we are awaiting a date for the hearing. Contrary to the expressions that we're hearing that this matter is being resolved outside of court, we are awaiting for a date for the matter to be heard. There is a legal battle that has already started between the unions and government over the issue of pension.
Do you see progress being made in your fight, or is the fight stagnant? Is it one-sided? Do you see leeway coming from the other side?
We await the court to decide. The matter is before the court, and I cannot say it is going one way or the other because law is not an exact science. We look forward to our day in court, and we believe that we are prepared to have this matter vented in the court.
While I know you need to be guarded with what you reveal as it's a court matter, could you just remind us what the essential case is, what the issue is that is before the court?
The issue is that persons, that we believe that pension is a right guaranteed by our Constitution, and of course, that is along the line in which we hope that this matter will be viewed. It's a constitutional right, not only for a group, because we have persons who join the service after 3 politicians, for example, who are paid from the public purse and enjoy a pension after and gratuity after such short times. And those of us who have given over 30 years who go home and with pittance really from the alliance. And we believe that it's grossly unfair, and that if it is good for the goose, it is even better for the gander.
I like that. It's not good for the gander, it's even better for the gander. I like that. Another fight we're moving with, because I know we have a lot of issues. Another fight is that of the appointment of temporary teachers into permanent positions. I know it could be maybe more than a year now since as far as my knowledge goes, since the last batch of temporary teachers were made permanent. Well, not a batch, but some temporary teachers were made permanent. What's the latest in that battle of the GUT?
We continue to advocate for the teachers. We have information that the ministry is intending to move in this regard. They have been very tardy as it relates to having this matter addressed, and we intend to continue our fight to ensure that what is due to these persons is given, because it represents cruel punishment, inhumane punishment to someone who is in a permanent position and being punished in the way that the emoluments, because they cannot earn increments, the job security, even the whole issue of the upward mobility, ability to access financing from an institution or so to move on with their lives is being retarded simply because someone decided that they should be permanently temporary, contrary to the law and the principles and collective agreements that we find.
What has been the major hindrance in making them permanent? What's the reason given that some of these teachers have not been given permanent positions?
No logical reason. I mean, all different things being said that is being sought. We have to ascertain the numbers in the system and all kinds of excuses. But for me, what I believe from where I sit, the lack of political will to correct it wrong. The lack of political will is the main hindrance.
Why you say that?
Because it is possible. You just have to decide, well, this is wrong. Government has been disenfranchising these persons and we choose to correct it. It's just the political ability.
Does the GUT have a number of how many temporary teachers we have in the system?
The number exceeds 400 at this point.
Okay. All right. And another issue of the GUT has to do with collective agreements. In these COVIDious times, as we say, a lot of, or the reason that has been given for some things not taking place and others taking place is that COVID-19. Collective agreements and the bargaining that goes into that aspect of it for the GUT and its members. What are your expectations?
Well, there are some benefits that were due and not given and not recognized eons before COVID. This, for instance, even the issue of the temporary teachers, that was something negotiated and agreed since 1997, that when the practice had been that you come into the service and after 2 years, once there is a satisfactory report and you're in a vacant position, you become permanent. And that was what was obtained in the service for many years. It's just in the last 15 or so years that this issue of regularization came to the fore. There was no need to regularize because it was almost automatic. Once the person performed and they were in a vacant position, they were given a permanent position. And that was in a collective agreement signed since in the 90s, 1997, and was honored. But over the years, we have seen the rolling back of the benefits that we would have fought for and enjoyed. Even the upgrade of teachers who would have acquired additional qualification. That was agreed since 2003. But in the last few years, long before COVID, even some persons 2017, some persons even before, who got the additional qualification and should have been remunerated accordingly, were denied their benefits. And that had nothing to do with COVID.
What needs to be done, or what can the GUT do to ensure that that part of the agreement is honored?
Well, we would continue to advocate and lobby. We may have to, if need be, take other actions, which for all good reasons I would not like to speak about, but it is an option that we have. We have industrial muscle that we can wisely use, but that's when all other options would have failed.
Have all other options failed so far? Or you still have more in the bag?
We're getting to that point where it seems unlikely that we will have more options to explore.
And just before we go to the break, I saw a notice this morning of a consultation to take place tomorrow, Tuesday, in relation to the accommodation of students of the Brizan and Happy Hill preschools into a newly constructed preschool facility in Busheju. Are you aware of this, and what's the need for that transition?
Well, I am not aware about the consultation. We know that the facility was built, and as we've seen, but we are not part of the consultation at this phase.
So it's something that that will take place, a matter of fact, and needs to happen, moving the students from Happy Hill and Brizan too. Busheju?
I guess the Ministry of Education will be better placed to answer that question.
All right, fair enough. On that note, let's take a quick break and then we're going to come back inside. We're speaking with President General of the Grenada Union of Teachers, Marvin Andall. We're going to take a quick commercial break and be right back. This is To The Point.
From Monday, November 2nd to Thursday, December 31st, GBN's Christmas Caravan will be blazing the trail of goodness across Grenada. Join us as we journey daily to find the hottest deals this Christmas season. Win prizes from our partners. Get recipes for your favorite Christmas treats and bust a tune in the Christmas Karaoke Fun segment. It's GBN's Christmas Caravan. Weekdays from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Live on Classic Radio 105.5 and 105.9. GBN Television Channels 7 and 11. GBN's Facebook page and GBN's YouTube channel. Your mid-mornings will never be the same.
The Christmas Caravan is brought to you in part by Hubbard's and the Food Fair Supermarkets, Kittens Healthcare, Sisson's Paint, and Bryden and Miners and Ace Hardware.
GBN Television News at 7, a pulse on all things Grenadian. Look out for our new features through expanded synergies with our media partners in Barbados, St. Lucia, Jamaica, Trinidad, and beyond. Capturing the latest in news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Credible, informative. Thank you for making us #1. News at 7, live. Monday to Friday on GBN Television, Channel 7 and 11, K105.5 and 105.9, Hot 98.5 and 98.7, GBN Television Facebook page and YouTube channel, and www.gbn.gd. GBN, with you anywhere and everywhere.
Breaking barriers. Going beyond the ordinary. Examining the stories beyond what meets the eyes. GBN gets to the meat of the matter. Join us on GBN Television, Classic Radio, gbn.gd, or on Facebook via your smartphones and other devices. We take you beyond the headlines every Monday night at 8:30 p.m. We are GBN, rated #1.
Greetings everyone. I hope this message meets you and yours in the best of health as we join in encouraging all to act responsibly.
COVID-19 presents the most serious
and deadly challenge
any of us will experience in our lifetimes.
We must act now.
We need to keep the Caribbean safe.
We can all help to stop the spread of the coronavirus. Please stay at home.
So Caribbean people,
welcome back to The Point, speaking with President General of the Grenada Union of Teachers, Marvin Andall. Mr. Andall, earlier this year, there was, it was late last year, industrial action at the T.A. Marisho Community College, seeking the payment of increments, and I believe some was paid. Have all been paid? That's the question.
Yes. An agreement was reached with the unions after the industrial action to pay the outstanding increments in tranches. One was paid early and the other had to be paid around March or sometime April thereabout. And of course, since the first payment, no other payment was done as far as we are aware. And there still remains outstanding the issue of overdue payments to members at times. And that is in conjunction with a myriad of other issues that the lecturers at the college are facing at this particular time. And we are very concerned about our premier tertiary institution, that those challenges are prevailing. That's a prevailing situation there, that we have those outstanding matters to be dealt with. And it was our considered view that this matter ought to be settled in a timely manner.
When the agreement was reached for the payment in tranches, did the agreement have when these payments need to be made by?
Yes, there were actually timelines, and so far they have not been met.
So how would we deal with that in ensuring that those payments are made?
Well, the next few days and weeks will be critical as we collectively decide on how we go.
Can you highlight maybe one of the options on the table?
There are always options. We can dialogue or we can fight industrially.
And you mentioned there are other issues that the teachers at times you see are facing. What are some of those options?
Some of the issues include even basic things like access to the required facilities for this time to do the online teaching, access to connectivity, access to laptops, and things that you will expect that lecturers at the tertiary institution to have. Some of our lecturers or members there are without some of these amenities. And it is rather unfortunate, particularly considering the times that we're facing.
And let me ask you this as well as the head of the GUT. I know the GUT has spoken out about issues related to public transport, well, privatized public transport. And just yesterday, the Bus Association held a news conference highlighting some of their concerns. Just wanted to get your thoughts on what they highlighted in terms of the criminal charges that can be laid for traffic violations. Does the GUT have any opinions on this part of what is proposed?
Our considered view is that traffic offenses should not be criminalized, and that the authorities need to rethink and revisit that draconian measure that has been outlined from our understanding. We would like to elaborate on it further when we have the opportunity to delve fully into the legislation, but from our understanding, it appears to be a draconian measure. And we believe that this is unnecessary to criminalize minor offenses.
All right, at this point, let's take in some calls, comments, questions, queries, concerns from members of the public. This is your opportunity to ask your questions. 435-2041, that's the landline number. That's also the WhatsApp. Please, only written messages on WhatsApp. You can post your comments, questions, queries, concerns on the GBN, Grenada Broadcasting Network's Facebook page and the Grenada Broadcasting Network's YouTube channel. And once again, I would ask that we please keep our comments, questions, queries, concerns respectful. Let's go to our first caller. Good morning, caller.
Yes, good morning to public servant. That's what you are. And of course, I always like to say I respect people, and I always like to remind them that as a taxpayer, we pay your salary. And of course, I'm very happy that you could come and give account to us, because actually you're accountable to us, because from Keith Mitchell down to bottom, we pay your salary. I want to find out what, in relation to the mass that Kate, the public servant Kate, gave the children with her face stamp, etc. I want to hear what is GUT's position or your position personally, because I know probably she meant it in a good way, but it's sort of it looks like bad taste, and to publicize, to kind of it looks as though you're kind of campaigning, So I don't know if anybody asks you about that, and I am not against that public servant named Kate, but I just find that is a little bit improper. So I just want to hear your thoughts on that. And should this thing be, I'm not against anybody getting a mask, but to politicize this thing for children, I don't think it's looking proper.
Thank you. Thank you, caller. Mr. Andall?
Blossom, I didn't get the gist of the caller's point.
She was asking your position on the masks distributed by St. Andrew MP Kate Lewis to the students with her face on it. What's the GUT's opinion on it?
We believe that it is rather unfortunate that someone can do a good thing but do it in the wrong way. We believe that the politicizing of children is forbidden and it is accepted universally. And it was the idea of giving a mask to the students is a noble gesture. maybe if I were to advise the MP, I would have suggested maybe the school logo or the national flag or some other item, but not to have it as political material.
Sorry, Mr. Andall, you appear to be a little bit, not a little bit, you appear to be frozen. Unmute your mic. Sorry, unmute your mic, Mr. Andall. Whatever happened with the device, it muted itself.
Yes.
Yes.
It is one of the problems when you're using your phone for Zoom, is that calls come in sometimes.
Exactly.
Yes. So I was saying it is rather unfortunate that this occurred. Giving up the children a mask, some of them would need it. It's a noble gesture. But to have it branded as political material is rather unfortunate and should not have occurred. And in a way, the schools should had a responsibility to prevent the children from being used to promote any politician. So the schools could have prevented it. This is my view too. So what the MP did cannot be condoned, and I think it's a mistake. And it is my view that something like that should never occur again. And it's a learning point for all of us that we do not play politics with the people's children.
Let's go to another caller. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Miss Blossom. How are you doing?
I'm good.
All right, Miss Blossom, I want your permission to make 2 points at least. One, the teachers of Grenada has not been treated fairly across the board. And I do not have time to go into all the details, but across the board, the teachers and the people in authority should really remember the Governor General start from the school teacher, starting to learn to hold the hands to make ABC. Prime Minister, ministers, you, me, everybody. And the teachers have not been treated close to fairness. Now, other thing that's on my mind for a long time. When the COVID started and the hotel workers were sent home, the Prime Minister said, this is not the time to send in workers home. Right away, he said he will be giving 80 million to the workers, the hotel workers only. Then the Minister Joseph came on the television and said, when he was asked where the monies are coming from, he says that was the treasury money, but I cannot explain the direct word he said. No. Then the NIS gave 10 million to so-called, I should say, unemployment, because some people get some and get others, I understand. Then after that, we keep hearing billions flowing in on the television. Now, I don't know if those billions that flows in on the television, if it's true. So I think we want to know if the monies that came through the television is true and what the monies went for, because me personally, I'm not hearing anything again. And remember, these monies came in after the 80 million plus the 10 million. So we'd like to know if, what, and how. I know that's not for the minister, for the gentleman this morning, but I'm throwing it out so people can be prepared and ask for it. So for the Minister of Education, there was opening a school in Carriacou, and she said, just never mind the COVID, things is hard, no less revenue, but we're still able to do this building in Carriacou.
Okay.
But the minister should know this was passed on the table a long time ago.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, caller. Mr. Andall?
Well, of course, the caller raised some issues that though I would have an interest in, but not in a position to really comment in regards to government finance. However, we recognize it is tough times, but there are some things that must be done, and one of those is ensuring that certain obligations that the government has to be met.
There's a question on the Facebook. Can you give us an update on the court battle on the deduction of teachers' salaries by the administration?
This matter wasn't heard. We have a teacher who took the matter to court. The matter has not yet been heard. So we await again the court hearing on this matter. As you know, since COVID, we have had a backlog of cases, and this happens to be one of those.
The teachers who are not permanent, how many of them are on contract?
Like I said, the number exceeds 400.
Right. There's a question another question on the Facebook. Hold on, let me make sure the phones are not ringing. 3, 2, never mind. Phone is ringing, and then I'll get back to the Facebook question. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. Mr. Andall, I think that you are aware, taking up the words, the usual words, you are aware that not everything government has to give account for. So it's hard to get the account of what happened with the money that I wanted to say but the government received from abroad. So then maybe if you were wise enough or legal-minded enough, and if there is law stating that somebody has to give account, then maybe that could be the right way to go. Because I could remember around the carnival, around the time when they were not expect to have them job, they had. And I could remember either you or the Prime Minister said that if you are involved in virus and the outbreak, not his words, there is an outbreak, he's no longer giving any help. That's my word. So I guess maybe it's his money or your money or perhaps Blossom's money. So give an account of what happened. That's what you have to ask for. An account, how the money has been spent.
Thank you, caller. Ms. Andall? Sorry, your mic is muted.
The issue of accountability, I think, is an obligation for government, and the caller is right in saying that there's need to give account. And as citizens, probably we demand too little of those who lead us. We have a responsibility to demand more in terms of providing the necessary information. So the caller is quite right in that regard.
There is a question on the Facebook. What is the union's position and the position of your members as it relates to the demands by government to forego the 4% which they are legally entitled to in January?
The union would have written to government on this, because when we met with our members, the general consensus, though some members felt that probably some later payment could be obtained, the vast majority believe that the government is obligated to pay in January as per the collective agreement. I think maybe we have to understand and appreciate the fact that teachers feel aggrieved, particularly about the second anniversary of that historic deduction to teachers' salary and their other attendant issues in regards to the non-payment of other benefits and the refusal to appoint people permanently. And all of these things add up to a choking point where teachers are not inclined, generally speaking, to forgive government and at this time, because they feel that they have been pressured, been ostracized, they feel that they have been unfairly treated. And so at this time, the issue of the payment due has been generally rejected of deferring the payment has been generally rejected by our membership.
Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Blossom. Good morning, Mr. Andall. Mr. Andall, I want to ask a very simple question. Is this the first time that the NNP government has docked from teachers' salary with regards to the dispute that took place some time ago? Or has it been done before? I would like to know.
Thank you, caller.
From my recollection in the service, which has been quite some years now, there was a time when there was a deduction done, but it was an insignificant amount. I think it was in 1989 under H.E. Blaze. There was a deduction. There was a deduction made to salaries sometime around 2000, but that deduction was in fact repeated. So yes, there has been times when the deductions have been made. There was a time when I can recall it was repaid around 2000. A few days after it was put back. But this is by far the largest deduction that has ever been made to teachers' salary in all my time in the service. I don't know if there are persons around who would have been before me, but in the almost 31 years now in the service, it is the largest I've ever been made aware of.
From the figures that the duty has of the 400 plus teachers who are temporary, do you have a breakdown of how many are sitting in positions that need to be made permanent, or those who are just, for lack of a better phrase, standing in for somebody? Because one of the statements on WhatsApp says there are teachers who are holding on for teachers who are on study leave.
Yes, that's a fact, and then that has always been. But what we have said is that there are persons, for example, let me give you an instance. We have new institutions. For example, the Victoria School for Special Education. The teachers, they are not holding in for anybody. But if I go to that, the person who served as a vice principal, I think would have had almost 15 years of service, is not a permanent worker. We have new schools, new subjects being introduced in schools. And these persons are not appointed permanently. So there are cases where some of those persons are in for somebody and it's not a vacant position, and so should not be, but a significantly high, an uncomfortably high number of persons who are not in for anybody are in a vacant position, and there is just a refusal to appoint this person.
Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Auntie Blossom again, and this one too. I don't have a question per se from the gentleman. I think I'm not sure what you Mr. Andall or whatever. But I would like to give him an advice. Now, in the teachers' union, in the teaching community, I believe there are many, many born-again Christians. Mr. Andall, there are things that are happening that just talking would not change it. It is spiritual. And I would advise that those who are born-again believers who have a good and clean relationship with God get together periodically and pray for the sector, pray for the government, pray for the Prime Minister, pray for the nation. Let it be something that's done systematically and regularly, because a lot of things are wrought by prayer more than what we can say. Because you say we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but we wrestle against principalities and powers, the rulers of darkness and spiritual wickedness in high places. This is the Bible, not me. I read that in the Word of God. So my advice as a teacher, because you see, so long y'all been talking, and y'all getting nowhere. Y'all getting nowhere. So much things are wrought by prayer than the world could ever dream of. So that's my advice, that those who are really clean and living for God, get together and supplicate the throne of God for deliverance. Thank you.
Thank you. Sander?
Well, I think it's a great suggestion. We have many religious leaders, of course, in our service, and probably divine intervention is needed because there are so many issues that confront us at this time that, in fact, we cannot dispute the fact that divine intervention might even be necessary at this particular time.
A question on YouTube in relation to the pension issue. If the court was to rule in government's favor, is there any plan where the GUT can organize a pension fund by asking past students to contribute to a pension plan for teachers. Or any way that the GUT can establish a pension plan for teachers.
Well, the GUT has been an organization that has created enough ample social benefits and other than the union itself, because as you know, we take care of our members through our medical plan and we have a social security, the credit union. It is not something that would be impossible for the union to do. But at this particular time, our belief is that our employer has an obligation to provide pensions to the persons who serve the nation as teachers, just as they are provided with pensions for their service to this nation. Always, that's our belief.
Let's take another quick break and then we're going to come back and wrap up this morning's conversation with President General of the Grenada Union of Teachers, Marvin Andall. To the point, we'll be right back.
Long ago, the strength of Grenadians was in their arms as they worked the lands to get food for the table. Nowadays, most Grenadians' plate is packed with lots of starch and meat, little or no vegetables, plenty fried foods, and they wash that down with something sweet while sitting in front of screen. Hard work and exercise seem to be out of style, and lifestyle diseases are becoming the fashion of the day and claiming many lives. Let's make a change to live longer. Let us grow and enjoy a variety of natural and safe, fresh vegetables and fruits every day. Use our local fresh seasoning and spices to make our traditional dishes healthier and avoid highly processed foods, snacks, and drinks. Drink more water every day to help your body function better. Get moving every day and trade some screen time to share and enjoy healthy family meals. Choose healthy foods and healthy lifestyle. Follow the healthy choices for healthy living guidelines for Grenadians.
That's not how you cross the pedestrian crossing.
Really? One day I just woke up and I saw pedestrian crosswalks on the road. No one really showed me how to use them properly.
Well, this is how it's done. You never cross before doing these things. They might save your life. First, when you get to the crosswalk, you stop. You look left, you look right. If there's a vehicle coming, you put your hand out, making eye contact with the driver, indicating that you want to cross. And only when the vehicle comes to a complete stop, you quickly cross to the other side.
Stop, look, hand out, eye contact. Wait for pedestrian to cross to the other side, then you happily continue on your journey. This message is brought to you by this group of insurance companies, the Traffic Advisory Body, and the Traffic Department.
Welcome back to the Point, speaking with President General of the Grenada Union of Teachers, Marvin Andall. Let's go right back to the phone lines. Good morning, caller.
Yes, good morning, Citizen Welch, and greetings to your guests there. Listen, in recent times we have had introduced a new modality of teaching, quote-unquote, blended format. I'd appreciate if your guests can give us a sort of succinct assessment of the rollout of this project. I wish you'd be able to give us just a couple of things, some of the major drawbacks and negatives, or should we say downsides, and of course some of the major highlights of this new modality of teaching. Thank you very much. Have a nice day, will you?
Thank you, Citizen Roller. You do the same. Ms. Andall?
Well, the issue of this new modality is wonderful on paper. It's a beautifully written concept. but the rollout and the practicality of it has some inherent challenges. One, the issue of connectivity at the various schools. We have internet trouble. Many of the institutions sometimes for hours without connectivity. The device that were given to the secondary students, there's some degree of challenge with its durability. It seems to be falling apart, so there are inherent challenges there. And while we are saying that we're going to do this blended approach, we're asking everybody to come back to school. So then there is no need. The blended approach is used in countries that have a limited number in at the time, and so you have some out, some in, so that makes up for the time when children are out. But we're asking for schools in Grenada to operate as normal while we are saying that we have been using a blended approach. The two don't seem to go together because the teacher cannot be providing instruction online while at the same time having everybody in front of them at the same time. So there seems to be a contradiction, and there are also some challenges with the blended. There seem to be an inclination towards, even in this time, to stick to the traditional approach in regards to the engagement of students.
There's a question on Facebook. Is it true that the union should have a strike fund?
There is an emergency fund that is used for emergencies, including
and then kind of follow up. Somebody on the WhatsApp is asking, I would like Mr. Andall to answer my questions truthfully. Would you pay workers at the GUT office if they were to strike for 12 days?
It depends on the context. And then if it is that you're not paying them, it must be done legally. You cannot remove a public servant's salary without, you cannot punish a public servant. The issue of the discipline of public servant, if it is done for disciplinary reasons, it has to be done through a process. And in our case, there is a protection of public officers from politicians. And that buffer is the Public Service Commission that is responsible for the hiring, firing, and disciplining of public officers. So, in other words, a politician should not punish a public servant. That decision must be carried out by the authority authorized to do so.
Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Mistress Blossom, and good morning to Mr. Andall, and good morning to everybody in the Isle of Spice, Grenada, Carriacou, and Martinique, and to who are listening in the rest of the world. From what I'm listening and understanding, I don't think that teachers is getting a really fair share of what is really put forward. And something I like to hear, Miss Eban is, I like to hear Miss Eban chat. She just do certain things, but I think sometimes when she talking about essential workers, you see, teachers is essential workers. The public sector, like teachers and nurses, I see them people as essential workers. The government, you could say they are public servants and we pay them because we must be, because we put them there. And something happens, when I look at over the past years, the teachers was one who was very instrumental in supporting Dr. Mitchell and putting him in power for over the last 20 years. I can explain that into the to the right down to the bottom. The next thing I want to say was, see, when you're living on that system, we live on a democratic system, but what is really portrayed is really an autocratic system. Do as I say, but don't do as I do. So these are the things better look forward for. Ms. Blossom, I still have to explain to you a couple of things with your matter, the shield and shadow, and I have to give you 104, 93, and 78, which is explain the goals and everything for you. Okay. So have a good day.
You too.
Before I go, at one time, in the history of Grenada, between the 18th, 17th century, between the French and the Caribs, at one time the Carib thing, they were tricked by the French, because the French came and built a fort, and when they built a fort, give them all these knives and everything, and at the end of the day, they end up taking the island from them. And the religion came in after 1840 something, after the emancipation time. So before that, we used to be practicing what sort of religion we used to be practicing in Africa. It is Bible religion, So have a good day and enjoy the rest of the morning and continue good works.
Thank you very much. Mr. Adam?
again, I was disturbed again by an incoming call, so I didn't get the last part of.
And the last part was just some history. Yeah, just some history about religion and Grenada and Africa. But one of the things that stood out to me was his comment that we say it's a democratic Grenada, but it's really autocratic. Do as I say, not as I do. You co-sign that?
I can see why someone would be of that view, because many things happen that, for instance, the pension issue. After 1983, it was decided that parliamentarians should have pensions, for instance. So I should have, I'm in leadership, I created a gratuity after every term and pensions, and then that's what I say, but we say that we cannot afford to give the rest pensions. So you practice one thing, you take for yourself, and then you deny persons. So in a way, it is a view that one can appreciate because there's evidence to substantiate it.
A WhatsApp question: can you tell us what's the relationship between the GUT and the Ministry of Education, and what are your views on the TAMCC school in Karakou, which is falling apart? You can see students from the outside in their classes and duct tape used to cover some of the holes out of embarrassment.
Well, the union and the ministry, we are in a relationship where we do engage. On some matters, we agree, and on many matters, we agree to disagree. The reality is that we are not satisfied as it relates to the response of the ministry timely as to some of the requests or the needs of our members and the upholding, particularly of our collective agreement. We believe that the ministry has been falling short, woefully short in this regard. The TAMCC, the infrastructural problems of the TAMCC, it's something that needs urgent attention. Recently seen the building, and it is not what a tertiary institution should look like. And we believe that this matter requires urgent attention. We believe that there are some plans that they make that are on stream at the college level, but that those must be executed urgently because we need to ensure that we have our premier tertiary institution looking as it ought to be.
A Facebook question. Do you think not being made permanent affects the way our teachers teach our children, seeing that there is nothing much to hold on to but a paycheck? What's your take on this?
It is viewed that teachers' conditions of work has implications for teaching and learning. It is difficult to give your best when you don't feel motivated, when you feel that you're treated badly. So there is need to give our teachers more incentive, more desire to do the best they can. And without job security, without the ability to have upward mobility, without that kind of security, it is difficult to expect one to give their very best. Notwithstanding this, we have teachers who are temporary that are doing a marvelous job, going over and beyond the call of duty. It is something that is intrinsic, but yet the belief is that if more persons were secure, then that worrying would give them more time to focus on their job rather than worrying about their own security in the system.
And as we wrap up this morning, Mr. Andall, any final thoughts? What's next for the GUT in its fight for teachers' rights?
Well, we will continue our fight for the improvement of the working conditions of teachers. Those of us who lead at this time stand on the shoulder of giants because they are those who have gone before us. over the last 107 years who would have contributed immensely to the development of this country and to the growth and success of the GUT. And we intend to continue that legacy and to continue advocating for the good of education and for the rights and benefits of our members.
Thank you so much, Mr. Andall. Thank you so much. Have yourself a productive Monday. I'll let you get back to the classroom now. Thank you so much.
Thank you most kindly.
Have a good one. That was President General of the Grenada Union of Teachers, Marvin Andall, our guest this morning. Hopefully we tackled most, if not all, of the questions that you may have had in relation to the GUT and its fight for teachers' rights. Thank you, our viewers and listeners, for tuning in to The Point this morning. Appreciate it as always. That's the end of my time today. Janelle and Joseph are up next with the Christmas Caravan. Have yourselves a good one. I'll see you tomorrow, God willing. Be blessed.